All right, welcome everybody. This is the Lucent Truth, and I am G-Flux the Great, G-Flux the Grand, G-Flux the Magnificent. In fact, let's do our little graphic here. Where is it? Bam! G-Flux the Great, G-Flux the Grand. And today I am going to be reviewing a new horror movie that I've watched twice now on Amazon Prime. So if you want to watch the movie, it's on Amazon Prime, and it is called Late Night with the Devil. Now, I've heard a lot of good things about this movie before it was released on Amazon. I heard it's done pretty well at certain film festivals and stuff like that, and I think Shudder got a hold of it. And apparently, it's pretty low budget movie. I think it costs less than $2 million to make, and the limited release that it's had in the theaters, I think it's made its money back and more. I think it's made a profit. So that's good news because one of the things I like about this movie is that it shows you what you can do with limited resources, but with good storytelling, good writing, and good acting. Now, I don't think it was a perfect movie. It's not my favorite horror movie. In fact, one of the things I think I like the least about it is the ending. I think the ending kind of keeps it from being like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But it is a good movie. I really enjoyed it, especially the acting, especially the premise, the way it was laid out, the way it was directed, the pacing. Everything was really well done. I just didn't like the ending all that much. Um, but what we're gonna do today is do a movie review of it. We're gonna do a basic synopsis of the movie, and then I'll go into uh, the basic review. Now, on the thumbnail of this video, it says, this horror movie uses AI art. It's not clickbait. If you want to skip ahead and go to the part where I specifically talk about this movie using AI art, this video should be split up in chapters. Just find the chapter that says AI art or something with AI art in it, and that's where I'll talk specifically about the movie using AI art. But this is going to be more of a comprehensive video, so I'll talk about more than just that. So the first thing I guess we should do is talk about the some basic information about the movie. Um, so the first thing I want to do is just talk a little bit about the directors. Um, their names are Colin and Cameron. Is that Karen Cairns? Probably Cairns. Colin and Cameron Cairns. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize for that. Don't get mad at me. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But this movie was produced in Australia, and I realized Australia recently has been coming out with a lot of pretty good horror movies. I mean, it started with The Babadook, and recently they've had Talk to Me, which I really enjoyed, and this one I really enjoyed. So I don't know if these two guys are from Australia. In fact, this is the first time I've ever heard of them. But I have to give these guys credit. Man, you guys did a good job with this. Um, Again, I think it shows you what you can do with some creativity and a good story, well written, good acting, and you don't need billions of dollars to make a good movie. In fact, Hollywood recently has been spending hundreds of millions of dollars on movies. They've been flopping. They've just been utter crap because I just think it's just too many hands in a pot. Instead of having some just talented people having one creative vision and letting them do their thing, and that doesn't always work because I mean look at Zack Snyder. He's gotten more and more control over his work in recent years, and his movies are just terrible. For the most part, they're just awful. I don't care what anybody says. But I digress. Let's get back to the movie. These are the two directors. I guess they're like a directing duo, brothers. And the guy on the right side over here, he's the main actor. We'll get to him in just a second. But essentially, the movie is about a late night talk show host in the 70s. And it obviously is fictional, but they insert it like he's a real late night talk show host competing with Johnny Carson. Now, I'm not a late night talking show host type of guy. I don't really watch that stuff. Johnny Carson is before my time. I was born in '81. I think Johnny Carson was big in the '70s. I think when I was growing up, I think it was Letterman and Jay Leno. When I was a young adult, I think Conan O'Brien, and then eventually, what's that one guy's name? I can't remember the young guy's name. Young guy who took over for Leno. I can't remember his name, or Letterman, whatever. But I'm not a big fan of those types of shows, but I understand them. I get them. I get the type of comedy that I've seen. I've seen them before, the type of comedy that's in it. And I have to say that they did a really good job capturing the essence of those types of shows in this movie. Now, the movie begins with almost like a documentary, like it's documenting the main character, Mr. Jack Delroy here, his almost like his last show. You know what I'm saying? His last show, and I believe they got Michael Ironside to do the narration for like the fake documentary or whatever. But long story short, Jack Delroy, the main character, again, he's in competition with not Jay Leno, but Johnny Carson, and his ratings are going down. So they've been trying. Him and his producer has been trying to do things or bring attractions to the show that will bring the ratings up. So the attractions get more and more ridiculous and more and more sensational. But unfortunately, he's still his ratings are still he can't catch up. In fact, he's declining to the point where they might cancel the show. So he has this idea that for a Halloween show that he wants to do, and for the Halloween show, he wants to bring on some psychics and a skeptic, and the main feature of the show, he wants to bring in a doctor who's been doing research on this girl who supposedly has been possessed by a demon. And the idea is, that maybe something spectacular will happen and the ratings will go up. Now, unfortunately, for Mr. Jack Delroy, his wife dies of cancer. And this right here is his wife. And now you do get to see his wife before she gets the cancer in the movie. But her name is Madeline Piper. As the character's name is Madeline Piper, but the actress playing her is Georgina Haig. I guess that's Haig. Maybe that's German. But before I say that, let's go back. I did forget to name this actor. This is David McLean. I don't know how to pronounce that either. Sorry, David. And he's been in a number of different things. He has that kind of like, I call it like the Tim Burton weird look. Looks like he should be like in a Tim Burton movie. He recently played the Twisted Mentat in the new Dune movie. But he just has that odd look to him. It's like it's almost like his eyes are too far apart. You know what I'm saying? He has almost like a sickly, weaselly type of look to him. So he's always playing like strange roles. But the guy's a hell of an actor because he did a really good job in this movie, playing a late night talk show host. I mean, even from his cadences to his mannerisms, the movie really felt like it took place in the 70s. And so I have to give him a lot of credit for that. But let's get back on it. Essentially, his wife gets cancer, lung cancer, in fact, even though she's not a smoker. And, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But she's not a smoker. She gets lung cancer. This is her right here again. And, of course, this devastates him. She unfortunately passes away. And he even brings her on the show before she dies, and the ratings do go up because of that. But he's still right below Johnny Carson. I think that's probably one of his highest rated shows at that point too, when he brought his sick wife on. Now in the movie, they do make it seem like he genuinely cares for this woman. He wasn't just using her as a prop. I mean, he was, but it wasn't. He wasn't just doing that. I think he genuinely cared for this woman. So they don't make him out to be like this complete bastard. He is somewhat relatable. He's just caught in his goals and his missions and his journey, that I don't think he can see that, maybe some of the things that he wants to do, just it's no point. It's not worth it. It's no point. He's done a lot in his life. There's no real need to try to catch up with Johnny Carson. But so he's blinded by that. But I don't know, he's not a complete bastard. It doesn't seem that way anyway. And his wife seems like she loves him, and they have a very touching moment on the show, and she passes away, I think, like a week or two later. Now, of course, this devastates him. He goes into grieving, and he leaves the show for a little bit, but he eventually comes back. But I just wanted to say that some of the cinematography and the effects and stuff like that they have in the movie, I think were really well done. Some of the grain and stuff they added to the film, or to the as effects on the movie, I think really did a good job immersing you in that time frame. A lot of times movies today will have movies take place in that time frame and everything just looks so slick and clean and 4K and IMAX and whatnot, that it just doesn't. You could tell they're in props. You could tell they're in clothing that they just dress them up in clothing from that time. They give them the haircuts, and they got they've gone through all the motions. They got the cars and the buildings look like they're from that era. But because it's so clean and so crisp, it just doesn't seem like it's from that era. This film, they really went out of their way to make it look like it was filmed in that era, if you know what I mean. So I give my hats off to them on that one. And this scene right here, this photo that they showed him like grieving, and I think also they showed him like kind of like waving his hand, not waving, but kind of like shooing the paparazzi away as he's grieving. But eventually he makes his way back, and this is another thing they do, because the first part is kind of like a spurious documentary. They also have like magazine covers from that era, and whoever the graphic designer is did a good job kind of like mocking them up to make it look like it was from that era. And this is a particularly good example right here. I just think, the colors, 70s were known for like the browns and oranges and reds, a lot of like earthy tones, and they just did a really good job. In fact, the earthy tone stripes is a motif all throughout the film. It's the backdrop for his talk show set, and just the lighting on this photo I just thought was just really, really good, and it really set the mood, I thought, for the entire film. And if you read down below, it says UBC Movie of the Week, Hail Abraxas, and we'll get to Abraxas later on as we continue on with the synopsis. But anyway, he comes back to the show, and he decides that to try to boost ratings, like I said before, he's going to do the Halloween show to end all Halloween shows, right? So he and his co-host, which is this guy right here, this guy was hilarious in the movie. His name in the movie is Gus McConnell. The actor's name is Reese Alteri. I guess that's how. Look, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry, Reese. I might be even pronouncing your first name wrong. I'm horrible at names, especially these types of names. But but I tried. But this guy is really funny. He's hilarious. Again, all the acting in here was spot on. The music too. The music was spot on. The music felt like it was from that time. It sounds like they actually had a live band playing the music while they were recording, which I think, if that's the case, it really added to it. And those guys are really good. Costumes, everything, were just spot on. They did a really good job. But this is his co-host, and when he's doing the Halloween show, Excuse me. He announces to the audience that um, that he wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them, and that everything he's doing is for them, which is kind of, it's probably partially true. He's also doing it for himself. He wants, especially now that his wife died. He probably has this single-minded goal to defeat Johnny Carson in the ratings or whatever. But anyway, the first guest he has on the show is this character here, or like in the in the like in the show, he is mononymously called Christo, and he's played by a man named Faisal Bazi. I guess that's how you pronounce your name, man. I'm sorry again. Faisal Bazi. I don't know if he's Middle Eastern or if he's Southern European. I'm not sure. Um, but he was saying "C" a lot, so it's almost like he's Spanish. He might be like Southern European or Mexican or something like that. But he's supposed to be a medium, and he's supposed to be able to, you know, channel the 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 dead ones of the dead loved ones of living people, and he comes off as a bit of a charlatan, because he's getting stuff wrong and stuff like that, and that's really a funny part of the movie because he's getting guesses wrong, like and stuff like that, and or at least the first person he tries to attempt to read or whatever. In fact, there's a really good, I believe it's Spanish. There's a Spanish movie called El Dia de la Bestia. This is it right here. El Dia de la Bestia, the Day of the Beast. It's probably my top 20 favorite horror movies of all time. I've seen both versions. I think I've seen the Spanish version and I've seen the English dub. I like them both. But the mononymous, what was his name? uh, Christo reminds me a lot of Kavan from Day of the Beast. They're very similar in nature. But anyway, Christo, on his second reading, he does a better job. But even then, it's very vague. It's almost like anyone with enough training, I think, and enough being able to read people can kind of, assume some general things about someone depending on how they react to them and stuff like that. So that's kind of what it comes. It comes off as like he's a huckster. Like, okay, this dude's clearly a fake, right? And so the second reading he does a better job. But one could interpret, okay, it was so vague. Like, yeah, you didn't really contact anybody. Now, after he does the second reading, people are actually impressed by it. Jack Delroy is even impressed by it, and the audience starts clapping and stuff like that, and they're about to cut to break. But before they do, all right, what's up with my? Here we go. Before they do, he starts getting another reading, and he starts looking almost like he's in pain when he's doing it. And the reading he gets is from a dead person named Minnie. And he keeps asking, does Minnie sound? Does this sound right to anybody? And no one was like, nah, no one knows a Minnie or whatever. And the light starts flickering and stuff like that. His eyes, turn to the back of his head. That's what this image right here is. And it looks pretty freaky. Like, it's like, all right, what's wrong with this guy? But still, he could still be faking it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, after that, he's never quite the same. It's almost like he becomes sick after, he has that particular reading, whether it's fake or not. And next what happens, is they cut to a commercial, and this is where I think when it comes to the visuals and the way they cut the film and the aspect ratio, the different aspect ratios that they were changing, going from to and fro, is where I think the movie really shines because, um, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that to the next section. For right now, I'll just say that it cuts to a commercial, and the mononymous Christo is a little bit worse for wears. He's not quite the same after he gets his last reading. All right, welcome back. Where did we leave off at? The mononymous Christo has given his last reading, and they're going to go to a commercial break. And the reason why I wanted to break this part up because this is the official AI part. Every single time in the movie that they did a commercial break, they would show a bumper graphic to say something like, we'll be right back. You know what I'm saying? Or Happy Halloween or something like that. And the graphics looked pretty cool, right? And it looked like they were something from the 70s. This is the title card, actually. It says now Night Owls with Jack Delroy. Now, as I was watching the movie, I'm looking at the graphics, and I went to school for graphic design. I'm primarily an illustrator, animator, that type of thing, but I do a lot of graphic design work too, right? And what I noticed when I was looking at these graphics was like, okay, they look cool. I like the color scheme and stuff like that. But I was like, you know what? These things are AI art. These AI art, man. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the creative team behind this, the brothers Carnes, whatever, should have never used AI art. I think AI art has a place. I think for small things, like stuff like this, or if you want a YouTube thumbnail or a quick character concept that you can build your original character off of or something like that, that type of thing. You need something quick, or you need some quick stock footage or something like that. I think it has its place. My problem with what they did was they didn't edit it, and you can tell. Like, let's zoom in on here. Like, at first glance, most people probably wouldn't even notice there's AI art, but for someone who's made images and has looked at images and analyzed images for pretty much all my life, right? I've been drawing since I was in the third grade. I instantly recognized something wasn't right, and you can tell, like, the skull of the face isn't drawn quite well. One of the things AI art always messes up on is hands, and you have to take the art back through another AI that does hands to make it right. And it's just small things like, what is this thing right here in the sky? Is that a bat? Or the way that the faces on the pumpkins look down here, they just look off, like they're not well drawn. You got the semblance of it, but it's not quite there. This leg right here is weird. What is this? Is this a spine with a skull on it? And why is a spine with a skull just sitting outside like that? I've never seen a Halloween decoration like that, so that's the point I'm trying to make. Same thing with the pumpkins over here. It just looks off. Now, just look, these things don't stay on screen for that long. So most people aren't going to catch it. But when I saw that, they could have at least given the AI art to a graphic designer or the design team and say, hey, like, we like this look, this aesthetic. Either clean this up or create something just like it, of the same pose and everything. But the quicker thing to do is just clean it up. Let's have your artist go in there and clean up the hands, clean up the faces and stuff like that. But it's lazy. It's lazy. It kind of threw me out of the movie a little bit. It was like, is that AI art? You know what I'm saying? It's not a major production. It's somewhat low production, but still, you've seen directors go out of the way and be very tedious about things, and it's just like, this is sloppy to me. Clean this shit up, man. This is ridiculous. They should have cleaned this up. And here are some of the other bumpers. This right here looked like it might be a real photo because you got the twin towers there. A real photo. They maybe put some filters on to make it look like it's from the 70s, or maybe an actual photo from the 70s. I don't know, but I don't think this is AI art. It could be, but I'm not sure. I don't think it is. Here's another one. Again, you know, at first glance, it doesn't look like there's anything awry. But then when you really start analyzing, it's like, hey, this is freaking AI art. Again, like it looks good, it looks cool, it looks like it's from that era, from the 70s. The color scheme, the model and style of the TV looks like it could be from that era. But again, when you zoom in, like look at the owl's feet. That's not how you would draw the owl's feet. It's just not. It's not right. Even the eyes, there's a highlight here, but but there's no highlight here. For the most part, the owl looks pretty good. It's just the feet kind of gives it is a dead giveaway. Or like this thing right here. What is that? Like what is that? Why? It's just like an artifact that the AI did. Right here on the television where you see the dials and stuff. It don't really look like dials. You got the semblance of something, but it's AI art. You can tell it's AI art. And it's sloppy. It's like have your artist go and clean that up. And maybe am I nitpicking? Maybe but I'm a graphic artist. I'm going to notice these types of things, and it's sloppy. It's sloppy. You know what I'm saying? Clean this shit up, man. Clean this shit up. Do better. Do better, brothers, Karens, whatever. Here's another one. This one isn't as noticeable because the owl was a little bit more abstract, but it's AI. You can just tell by the way the patterns and stuff look on it. It's AI art. It's AI art. Again, do better. Come on. One thing they probably did do though was actually put the text on it because AI, unless there's some new iterations of AI that does fonts really well, text really well, looks like they might have given that to a graphic artist and they put the text on it. But if they did that, just have them go and clean the shit up. Here's another one. Again, this is the the motif that they use for the late night talk show throughout the movie. Now, this could have been created with AI, or it could have been. This is simple enough where a graphic designer could have easily made this. But it's also AI could have done it. I don't know. Now, let's move on from the bumpers and let's get on with the rest of the synopsis. All right, welcome back. We're going to move on with the rest of the synopsis. And basically, when they reach the commercial break, the style of the film changes. So it goes from a 1-to-1 kind of like square aspect ratio to a more widescreen ratio. And anytime they're not filming the show, when they change from color to black and white. So when Mr. Jack Delroy is talking behind the scenes to the other characters, in between the breaks and stuff like that, like he's talking to his producer here, played by Josh Kwong Tart. I guess that's how you pronounce your name, Mr. Josh. But he plays a character named Leo Fisk. He is the producer of the late night show, the Night Owls, in the movie. And again, this is one of the cool things about the show is that the the aesthetic change, and I think the aesthetic changes are artfully done. It's not distracting. It blends really well with the rest of the film, which I think is really cool. And I just really enjoyed it a lot. You know what I'm saying? I thought they did a good job going back and forth without it being distracting. But anyway, they take a break. Mr. Jack Leroy, the host of the show, he has a conversation with his producer, and they're talking about the ratings and whatnot, and will this show be able to turn it around? They think that the psychic did a pretty decent job, even though they think he's a fake. Basically, they think he's a fake. But his performance seemed entertaining enough to that maybe it will boost or spike the ratings. And one thing you learn about Mr. Jack Delroy is that there's a little bit more to him than meets the eye. And you actually learn about this a little bit actually in the beginning montage, the documentary montage, is that he is actually a member of what Alex Jones would call the Bohemian Grove. As a matter of fact, I think Alex Jones snuck into it. And if you don't know what the Bohemian Grove is, it's this basically like a man's club or a boys club that's way out in the wilderness in the redwoods of like California somewhere, I think. And it's basically a bunch of really rich old white men, basically. Maybe now there's probably some black men in it now, but get together and they have these rituals out in the woods. And the idea is to kind of forget about the cares of the world. And it probably started off innocently enough, but over the years, it just got weirder and weirder. They have mock sacrifices and stuff like that. Some people say they have real sacrifices. No one knows. There's this big giant owl-looking statue out there, and Jack Delroy is a part of this thing. He's a part of this giant boys club, and some people think that's why he's as successful as he is. And some people say that he went to this thing so that he could get number one, so that he could beat Johnny Carson. He had to like go and basically kiss the ring of all these really rich and wealthy, powerful people at this boys club out in the woods, this weird satanic like boys club out in the woods. And you learn that about him, and it does kind of like cast some aspersions on this character, but still he seems like a pretty decent guy. It's just okay, maybe he's doing the things he needs to do to get ahead, but no one really knows what happens out in these things. Some people say it's innocent enough. It's just some guys going out there trying to get away from all the stresses of what they do. These are the movers and the shakers of the world. They're trying to get away from the stresses. But the mock sacrifices, and then people say there's gay orgies out there and stuff like that, and that's the rumors, and some of the rumors have been proven true, some not. But anyway, we learn that about him through some of these. We learn a little bit more about that through some of these cuts to the real life conversations that he's having when it's not being filmed. And of course, his producer he's pretty funny. He's a ratings, and pushing Jack and his co-host. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. Pushing Jack and his co-host to kind of get those ratings or whatever. And here's here's some of the lighting and stuff in the movie is beautiful. Like it's very well directed, I thought. Excuse me. But again, now when the commercial break is over and they cut back, or they get back to doing the show, Jack Delroy's next guest is a man named Carmichael the Conjurer, and he's essentially a former magician, a retired magician turned skeptic. He's played by an actor named Ian Bliss, and if any of you are in the skeptic community, I'm not in that community, but I follow the community. I'm a big time skeptic and atheist. I need proof. I need evidence of miraculous claims. But anyone in that community has probably heard of the man named James Randi, and this character, Carmyle the Conjurer, is clearly, inspired by that. Excuse me, that real life. That real life character. He's passed away now, and his name is James Randi. He also, I think, was a magician. And later on in life, he would go around debunking astrologers and mediums and psychics and all that stuff like that. People who say they can do miraculous stuff. And he had a challenge, and the challenge was anyone who could prove that they could do something spectacular would get $1 million check that he would keep, that he would write, and that he would keep with him. And he'd go on TV shows and stuff like that, and on talk shows and stuff, and he'd look, if someone who said they could do something excuse me, miraculous could prove that they could do it, they would get the money. And Carmichael the Conjurer has the same shtick. He would write $100,000 check. If you could prove it, you would get the money. But he would then go about disproving what you could do. Now, I have to say, this guy, all the acting in this movie is good. Everyone brings their A game. Some of these actors I've never heard of before. Some of them I have, but all the actors do an amazing job, including this actor. He does a really good job portraying this character. I mean, he really makes you believe that he is Carmichael the Conjurer. So I have to say, like, he did an excellent job. But that's basically his basic role. He's the skeptic brought on to debunk the claims, right? Now, excuse me. I'm going to take a break and get some water. I'll be back. All right, welcome back. I had to take a little break, but I'm back. So let's move on. Basically, after Carmichael the Conjurer says his piece, and he kind of pretty much debunks what's what's the character's name? The mononymous what's the guy's name? The mononymous Christo. He kind of debunks the mononymous Christo and says he's just an act. He's a stage performer. He's a good stage performer, but he's not a real medium. And he does his own little magic tricks to show how easily people can be fooled and stuff like that, right? But after he talks with Carmichael the Conjurer, and they have their little piece, Jack Delroy, he starts to talk about the next guest that he wants to bring on. And the guest is a woman named June Ross Mitchell. And she has written a book called Conversations with the Devil. And the book is essentially about her dealings with a young woman who was a part of a satanic cult named after the demon Abraxas. And apparently this cult was rumored to have actually done human sacrifices and stuff like that. The leader of the cult's name was... Oh, by the way, before I move on to that, I have to say that the design of this book cover is really cool. It's simplistic, but it's cool. And you can tell they took the face of the girl, the main girl that's going to be... That's coming up later, and they used her face because she has these really big, bright, cat-like eyes, and they used her face for the cover of the book, which is really it's a nice touch. But anyway, let's get back to it. The leader of the cult that this girl was in, his name is Sandor Diabo, and he's played by an actor named Steve Mouzakis. I'm sorry, Steve. I probably butchered your last name, but I just don't. Some of these last names are just, I don't know them. But long story short, the leader of this cult, you could tell he was inspired by, what's that guy's name? That the Church of Satan. What's the guy's name? Let's look it up real quick. Church of Satan leader LaVey. What's his name? Anton LaVey. You could tell he was inspired by Anton LaVey. This guy here. If you've never seen him before. But he was big in the 70s, and some people say that if you listen to hardcore Christians, he'll say, okay, this guy's completely evil. He really believes in Satan. He's a Satanist. They do rituals. You shouldn't listen to him. You shouldn't read anything he's ever written or anything like that. I don't read this stuff anyway, but, and there's other people who say, okay, no, these Satanists are actually just trolls. They don't actually believe in Satan. They believe in pageantry, and they believe in, they're more like humanists, but they believe in trolling Christians. Like, I'm a humanist, I'm an atheist, but I don't believe in trolling Christians. Like, I'm not trying to, I don't get my kicks off of trolling Christians, but these guys are trolls. Like, they're like trolls before the internet. That's some people say they're innocent. They're not dealing any kind of rituals. Well, in the movie, this guy, he's a real deal. He's a real Satanist, I think. And I think they were like breeding people to be sacrifices or whatever. And Uh, Essentially, his cult got in trouble with the government for hoarding weapons, and it was something else they were doing. And instead of giving themselves up, they decide to douse themselves in their compound in gasoline and kill themselves. Miraculously, someone is saved from the fire, and it's a young girl. Um, but before we get to her, we're gonna move to the doctor that found it, that's helping her. Um, and her name is again June Ross Mitchell. She's the one who wrote the book, and she's played by the actress Laura Gordon. I can pronounce that name. It's a very English anglicized name. Um, but she is she has a doctorate in something called parapsychology. Now, the the skeptic thinks it's all hogwash. He thinks that her doctorate degree is hogwash. Thinks that her education is hogwash or whatever. But she's been doing research on satanic rituals and and possession and entities and stuff like that. And she thinks that her the girl that she's been helping is the real deal. She's truly possessed by this demon or whatever. Now, again, all the acting is good. She does a great job, but particularly the girl, uh, this girl here, the character's name is Lily, and she's played by an actress named Ingrid Torelli. Now, I have to say, this girl, now she's playing. I think in the movie she's playing a 13-year-old. Now, as soon as I saw her, like this girl's clearly not 13. She's got to be at least 16, 17. I think in real life, when the movie was being made, she might have been like 17. I think she's 18 now, but she's playing a 13-year-old, and that made me think about something because I think in the Godfather of all exorcist or possession movies, The Exorcist, I think the main character. What was the main character's name in that? Let's look it up real quick. Exor actress. Reagan was the name of the character, and she's played by Linda Blair. Now, in this movie, I think her character was only supposed to be like 12 or 13 years old too, and the actress playing her was a little bit closer in age to that. I think she was 14. I think Linda Blair was like 14 when the movie was being filmed. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think the reason why they choose those kind of ages is because they're kind of like the beginning of puberty. So it's like the beginning of the loss of innocence. You know what I'm saying? Like you're beginning to move into adulthood. So I think that's why they choose those ages. And on a darker note, uh, that director, that famous director, who's what's his name, Roman Polanski. You have to remember Roman Polanski, um, was a big director in the 70s. He's the one who had the wife that was killed by the Manson family. What's her name? I can't remember her name, but she was one of the characters in Quentin Tarantino's movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate. Um, so Roman Polanski, when you do a little bit of research on him, man, I think he dabbled in this kind of like stuff, this like satanic type stuff. And I always thought it was weird that his wife was one of the ones that was killed by the Manson family. And I have to say that the guy is just a weird guy. I remember he made this movie called The Ninth Gate, and it's a movie about the occult books in particular. I think it starred Johnny Depp. And when I first watched the movie, I was like, this movie's stupid. I watched it again. I was like, it's pretty interesting. There's something deeper going on here than meets the eye. So I think Roman Polanski is into all this stuff. But again, the reason why I bring him up is because what is Roman Polanski, in trouble for? Why can't he come back to the United States, even though he's a big time director? Why is he in France somewhere or wherever I think he's from Romania originally. Where's Roman Polanski from? I think it's one of those Eastern European. I don't think it's originally from France. I think it's one of the Eastern European countries. But what is he in trouble for? He's in trouble for uh I'm trying to say this in the most YouTube friendly way possible, but he's in trouble for doing some very inappropriate things to a 13-year-old girl. So I don't know if the directors have all this in mind. I'm pretty sure they did heavy research on that era. But when you start, and this again, this is going down a dark path. I won't dwell on this too much because I've done research on this stuff, and it's just like, all right, this is the kind of stuff that makes you lose faith in humanity and type of shit, or whatever, if it's real. But one of the things that supposedly these satanic uh, cults and societies do, the ones who aren't trolls, the supposed legit ones, are essentially breaking the minds of people through torture, and that torture can involve uh, certain forms of sexual violation, I should say. I don't want. I'm trying not to get to whatever, and it goes into breaking people's personalities up, and they have these multiple personalities and stuff like that, which some people could say, or some people thought in the past was some kind of demonic possession. People who have like, who are what's the word I'm looking for? Bipolar, some extreme form of bipolarism or multiple personality disorder, whatever. Um, so this movie, even though it's a horror comedy, is billed as a horror comedy, it's actually touching on some somewhat dark themes because the girl Lily, I think she's a victim of this inside this cult. So when she comes out on the stage, at first it looks like this, this kind of like innocent, cute, bright-eyed girl, but the more you start to see her on screen, she starts giving off like, Macaulay Culkin good son vibes, man. Like this, she's creepy, and I have to say the actress did a really good job portraying it. Like, because it'd be like she would always just stare right into the camera, even to the point where Jack Delroy, the host, had to say, like, you can look at me, you don't have to look at the camera. But I think she's doing it on purpose. She's mesmerizing the audience, the actual audience who's watching the actual movie, but also the in movie audience. She's mesmerizing the audience with the crystal eyed stare. You know what I'm saying? And she just does a really good job. I mean, just look at some of these images. She's just looking at the camera, and it's bizarre. And it's like, I have to give her so much credit because she did such a good job, because she's pulled off innocent and scary and off kilter. She just did such a good job because like all her mannerisms would be off. Like, yeah, she would smile and laugh, but it would always be at the wrong time, or she'd say the wrong thing, or you know what I'm saying? She did a really good job with it. Like, you had the girlfriend that she was fine, but something a little off about it. Like, she got that craziness in her. It's like you had to let her go because she's crazy. That's the feeling you get. It's like from her. She did a good job with that, man. But look at this. Just nuts looks. She just looks nuts. Look freaking nuts, man. I have to say this actress did a really good job. What's her name? Ingrid Torelli. You did hats off to you. You did a good job portraying this role. But look at this. Look at that. But anyway, she apparently is possessed by a demon, and Jack Delroy wants the doctor who's taking care of her to kind of do a demonstration. And at first the doctor is kind of against it, but Lily, very very cheerfully like soothes the doctor in a way and says, hey, let's do it, that's why we came here for. And they almost have like a mother-daughter relationship, so you can tell that she can use her innocent kind of feminine ways on her mother to kind of get her to do things that she probably normally wouldn't do or wouldn't want to do, and the fact that she might be having an affair with Jack Delroy. So you got that whole dynamic going on. Um, it's kind of, and then the audience is all saying that they want them to do a demonstration, so she's kind of pressured into doing it against her better judgment, right? And the next few events, I'm not going to give too much detail because I want you to go see the movie. But I'll just say that, and I don't think this is giving too much away because I mean you kind of know this. She's probably possessed by a demon, right? And some crazy things happen. And I will say that again, the lighting, cinematography, acting, everything was so good in this movie. And even there's some like Easter eggs. Like this was a particular Easter egg that I liked. Essentially, the girl who's possessed with the demon, she calls the demon Mr. Wriggles. And when Jack Delroy asks her why she calls him that, she was like, well, because he kind of wriggles his way in and wriggles his way out. You know what I'm saying? So that's why she calls him Mr. Wriggles. And before they do the demonstration, this kind of like electric surge kind of happens in the place, and then like this weird instrument that the co-host was using, that kind of instrument that makes that weird Halloween sound that you that you hear during Halloween, but the instrument is played without actually touching the instrument. You just move your hand. Well, that thing starts going haywire and starts shocking the co-host, and this weird sound, this feedback loop sound kind of starts happening, and it crushes the glass of water that they have on the table with all the artifacts from the cult that the doctor has collected. And one of the things I didn't see this the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, one of the artifacts is like this black mirror, and I didn't notice it, but the second time I watched it, I noticed an image or a reflection of Jack Delroy, the host's dead wife, the one who died of cancer. You can see her reflected inside of the mirror, and I was like, that's a nice little touch. They did a good job with that. You know what I'm saying? And of course, there's a skull, looks like some kind of grimoire, and of course a satanic looking dagger on there. But anyway, long story short, I don't want to give too much details of the climax of the film. Climax of the film is actually probably my least favorite part. I just thought it was a little too over the top. The very ending was okay, but the climax of the film I thought was a little too over the top. But I'm just going to go through some more photos just to kind of show some of the lighting and stuff like this. This is a scene where Carmichael the Conjurer sort of hypnotizes the co-host. The co-host is hilarious. The McConnell, the co-host, and he hypnotizes him to make him think that these worms are inside of his body, because the guy has this fear of worms, and this giant worm pops out of his like eye socket. So they do a lot of good body horror in this with practical effects, which I like. Again, here's another scene where you see you can tell they took this from the Matrix with not the Matrix but the Exorcist. What's the demon's name in the Exorcist? Let's look it up real quick. His name was I believe it was Ponzuzu. Let's look it up. Demon in the Exorcist. Pazuzu. And if I'm not mistaken, Reagan has a name for him, for the demon also, just like how Lily has a name for her demon, if I'm not mistaken. But again, like in The Exorcist, there's like these little shots. They're really quick where you see the face of Pazuzu, and a similar thing happens in this movie. You can tell they were inspired probably by the Matrix, where you see little flashes, of hints of something unnatural going on. And again, this is Jack Delroy's dead wife, the one who died of cancer. Just you see little glimpses of her every now and then. Let's find out what was the name that Reagan had for Pazuzu. What was the name Reagan had for Pazuzu? Let's see. I'm sure I thought she had a name for it, but I can't remember. It was like Mr. something. Let's go here. Let's go Control F, Mr. Nothing comes up. Yeah, what did Reagan call? What did Reagan call the demon inside her? Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy. And again, you can tell that the directors were somewhat inspired by The Exorcist, but I have to give them credit because they took a horror trope that's become kind of tired now, and they have a little bit of a different spin on it, and I thought they did a good job with putting their own spin on it. The premise and everything was excellent. I just didn't like. I just thought the ending was a little, you know. This is probably my favorite. This is probably the thumbnail that I'm going to use for the video. But this is Reagan when she's kind of like transformed. Not Reagan, but Lily when she's transformed, and she looks pretty freaky. And then at the end, the guy starts hallucinating, and you see the cultists, uh, you know, and just different flashes of different scenes. This is that instrument I was telling you about. Looks like it's in that forest in the grove where where Jack Delroy apparently was having his orgies out in the forest with the boys club out there. We'll get to this in a second. But I just wanted to say that overall, man, I really enjoyed the film. I'm not going to give the ending away or what Lily does and stuff like that. I think I gave a pretty good synopsis so that I think it would make you, if you're into horror movies and possession movies and stuff like that, I think it should be interesting enough to make you want to go see it and watch the rest of it for yourself. But I have to say, everything, like, for the budget they had, and everyone did a really good job with their part. The acting was on point. The pacing was good. The directing was good. The cinematography was good. The immersion into that 1970s era was really well done. But if I had to rate this movie, I think it's above average for a horror flick, but I don't think it's perfect, and it's not like my favorite horror movie of all time. So if I had to give it a rating, I would give it 4 lucent bulbs out of 5. Yeah, 4 lucent bulbs out of 5. I think it's that good. I think it's worth watching. I think it has some rewatch value. I can see myself watching this again because I just like so many aspects of it, even though I didn't like the ending all that much. But yeah, I would give it 4 out of 5 bulbs because possession movies are hard to do now. The Exorcist created such a high bar that if you're not bringing something new to the table or interesting to the table, it almost becomes redundant. Almost like, hey, this is just a lame version of The Exorcist. And there are some movies that in the past 15 years that I think have done a really good job doing the possession theme, but putting their own thing on it, putting their own spin on it, and making it good. One of them, which is a review I need to do, I think this movie came out in 2010, called The Shrine. And this movie was so good. Like, it was way better than I thought it was going to be. It was way better than it had any rights to be. In fact, it stars one of those twins. Remember the X-Men movies that came out in the early 2000s? And remember the character that played Iceman? Let's look him up real quick. Because he has a twin brother, and I never know which one is playing in which movie. But in the mid 2000s, he and his brother did a series of like horror movies that were pretty good. Let's see how can we look at this guy. Iceman from the X-Men movies. Yeah, this guy right here, Sean Ashmore. Now I don't know which one played in the Shrine. I don't know if it was him or his brother, but he has a twin brother. Let's see. Put up Ashmore brothers. Ashmore twins. So these guys here. What's his brother's name? So there's Aaron and Sean Ashmore. But they did a series of horror movies in the mid 2000s that I thought were pretty good. Um, one, of course, was The Shrine. One was here, The Ruins. The Ruins was actually pretty good. This is another one I need to do a review on. Another one is called, I think it's called The Day. Yeah, it's called The Day. But they did, and this is like a post-apocalyptic type thing. But I remember it being pretty good, and I have to give those guys. I don't know, if they were behind the creative teams or some of these ideas were theirs or not. But The Ruins, The Shrine, The Day, I liked all three of those movies. They all three star, I think, one of the Ashmore brothers. Um, but The Shrine, I think, was one that really stood out to me because it the way it did its possession story was so unique, so interesting, and so cool. And I have to do a review on this movie because I don't think enough people talk about it. But it's definitely in one of my top 20 favorite horror movies of all time, or I would say top 50 horror movies of all time. Um, but it was really good. Another one of the more recent ones. This is another one that I don't think gets talked about a lot because it's actually a sequel. Because the first Ouija movie wasn't that good, but this sequel, Origin of Evil, Evil, oh my god! I mean, it was creepy. It was done so well. It was directed by the same guy who did who directed this, man. He's done a lot of really good horror movies and horror mini series actually. Let's see. Let's look him up real quick. Ouija, the Origin of Evil. Who's the director for this thing? Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan. He's directed a lot of horror movies that I've liked. Let's see, what has he directed? Um, so he's done The Fall of the House of Usher, which was a miniseries. I haven't actually watched that yet. Midnight Club. Have I seen that? I don't think I've seen that either. Midnight Mass was pretty good. It was a good miniseries. The Haunting of Bly Manor. Everyone keeps saying that's good. I haven't seen it, but I have to check it out. Doctor Sleep, excellent. The Haunting of Hill House miniseries. I actually haven't seen that either. Everyone keeps saying it's good. Gerald's Game was good. That Ouija, The Origin of Evil, good, man. Before I Wake was really good. It was much better than I thought it was going to be. Oculus, good. Not the best, but it was good. I've never seen Hush. Absentee, I've never seen that. Um, but for the most part, man, most of the stuff that I've seen that he's made, I've enjoyed. And Ouija, The Origin of Evil was actually pretty good. I mean, it just has some really creepy scenes. I like the story. This is one of the scenes from the movie right here. And this little girl, she gets possessed, and it was really creepy. Um, but it didn't take too much from the a little bit. It's hard not to take from the aesthetic of The Exorcist, but this movie had its own aesthetic that I thought was pretty good. Another one of the more recent ones was Insidious, which technically was a possession movie. And that first Insidious was so good. It was terrifying, was creepy, it was well done, well paced, well directed. All the other Insidious movies after that were pretty much dog shit, in my opinion. None of them were that good. But that first one, man, they hit it out of the park on that one. Some other movies that came around the same time I think Insidious came out with, I think it was a movie called Sinister. It's technically a possession movie because it's about the boogeyman who uh, basically haunts these children and makes these children commit unspeakable acts against their family. So it's not full possession, but he's like manipulating them, almost like a Pied Piper to do some like crazy things or whatever. But those are pretty good. Both those movies were good. But this was the only good Insidious movie in my opinion. The rest of them were garbage, straight garbage. Remember this scene from Insidious right here? Creepy, dude. Straight creepy. Um, again, creepy. Just, just nightmare fuel. You know what I'm saying? And again, another really good possession movie in more recent times, Hereditary. Um, I gave this movie a really high rating. It was really, really good. The acting by the mother in the movie, man, it was just so good. It was creepy. It's a little bit more of a slow burn, but it was just so well crafted. Really good. Really good possession movie. Again, it's another possession movie that kind of does its own thing. It's not beholden to what The Exorcist created. You know what I'm saying? And one of the more recent possession movies that I thought was really, really good was Talk to Me. Again, I think is an Australian film, but this movie was just so well done. Um, Again, I think the creative juices that's bubbling up in Australia and places like New Zealand, um, I think are I think they have their finger on the pulse of what makes good horror, whereas we're losing it over here in America. At one time, Japan had it, Korea has been getting it for a while now, but America seems to be losing their touch. I mean, we come out with some good stuff every now and then, but for most of it's straight garbage. Um, but Talk to Me was actually surprisingly very, very good. So if you're into possession movies, supernatural possession movies, I think that's one was really good. It was very original the way they went about doing the possession and the mechanics of how the supernatural stuff worked. I thought was really cool. Um, Last but not least, if you're interested in short horror stories, I myself am also a writer, and my latest Lovecraftian horror story is called The Emerald Light of Soul. I also did the illustration for it. If you want to check it out, please go to, let's see, vocal.media. Go to vocal, VOCAL.media, and look up Brian Keith McMurray. That is my author's name. Um, I have plenty of short horror stories in here from The Emerald Light of Soul was my recent one. This is more of a short narrative poem. It's really more of a fantasy, but there's some horror elements in it. Moorish Pie. I have another short horror I did right here called The Unfathomable Whims. I got some fantasy stuff in here. I'm writing the second part to this one right here called Perilous Incorporated. I'm still working on the second part of this one. But please go to vocal.media/authors/Brian Keith McMurray. Check me out. Read some of my stuff. Give me a like or a thumbs up. You can even tip me if you really like the story, if you're frightened by it. Also, do not forget to like, subscribe, and subscribe, and share. Press the bell on the Lucent Oak Studios channel. Support us any way you can. We'll try to bring you more content, more original content. I'm working on a comic book right now called Southern Shinobi. I'm also trying to work on a couple of shorts, little pseudo-animated shorts that are based on my short horror stories here. I'm trying to work on those and bring those out to you. Try to get it on Tubi. Actually, that's my goal. But I'll also upload it to YouTube, some of them. But check me out on vocal.media. And guys, I think that's it. That will conclude my movie review of Late Night with the Devil. Again, kudos to the directors. I really enjoyed the film. Didn't like the ending all that much, but I really enjoyed the film. I think you guys took what little you had and you made the best of it. And I think those are usually the best types of movies, rather than these, $100 million blockbusters that just lack any kind of soul or artistic authenticity, because it's being created by some kind of committee, some accountants, who have tabulated what they think is cool, what they think is popular, or whatnot. But I really enjoyed the film. Again, like, subscribe, click the bell, and check me out on vocal.media. Brian Keith McMurray. My latest work is The Emerald Light of Soul. If you're into Lovecraftian horror and you want to read a really cool short story depicting Lovecraftian horror themes or cosmic horror themes, check me out. That's a bulk of my work is that cosmic horror. But yeah, check me out. And this is G-Flux the Great, G-Flux the Grand, G-Flux the Magnificent, signing out.
Lucent Studio.